The Father's name, reveal your heart to me. I want to bear the fruit that stays. So come abide in me
Yes.
and show me your ways. Show me your ways. Show me your ways. Jesus, show me your ways. Show me your ways. Show me your ways. I wanna hear you call me friend. And what is yours is mine. So I'm laying down my life again, yeah. And I will testify.
Wow, I could not get enough of that song. That is for sure. Courtney, I think that's one of our newer songs that we have played from the Integrity album, and I've got to listen to more of that. Hey, everybody, welcome to a day of ministry. Uh, for me, ministry never gets old, and it's happening around the world. And today we're delighted to bring this subject matter to you. We're beginning a three-part series. This is number one. We start here. Uh, Ministry Spark is bringing it to you, which is also David C. Cook. And we thrive as people who partner and walk with you, not only in resources that we provide, but there are subject matters where we need to bring in the professionals to really help us do some heavy lifting. Um, and the world is the world is a mess. The world is so broken. Uh, I have just, it's been heavy this morning, just spiritually and mentally, taking care of some soul care this morning, just to step into this. Maybe for some of us, it's difficult. Maybe for some of us, we are hesitant upon what we might hear. But as our team that you'll meet in a few minutes, as we met and ended our huddle, we all acknowledge that God is here. God is present. The Holy Spirit, the stitcher, the mender, the rebuilder, the restorer, the redeemer, the healer. He is here for us today. So I just give God thanks that I can testify and speak that over all of you. So as you're coming in, we welcome you again to this webinar. And today we're going to really kick this off, starting at the beginning, leading a trauma informed series. A few things before we get rolling. Number one, as always, there will be a video replay that will be coming out to you shortly. And it's one of those that you're going to want to use, I think, with parents, with volunteers, anyone in your ministry, I think, is going to benefit from today and this entire series. Also, what we're wanting to do at David C. Cook is provide some resources to you that you can use in your ministry. So at the end of our webinar, there's going to be a code where you can receive a free subscription to Shepherd's Watch, which is a incredible ministry background check program. Again, in light of we're really talking about the soul and the heart of children, protecting, overseeing, hovering over them, we thought this would be a really good gift that we could gift you with uh, in this particular webinar. So we have prayed, we're ready to walk into this, and I am meeting these incredible people for the very first time. I believe you guys go to CPC, don't you? You have been there, correct? And are you going in 26?
We will be there.
Yes, we'll be
Great.
there.
That is fantastic. So, anyone joining us, if you would like to say, "Hey, man, I'll see you in Orlando," we would like to see you at the David C. Cook booth. But you could also connect with these people. These are ministry people that we need to lean into because it's a necessary topic. So my guests today come to us from the Hurting Kids Institute. And we have Robert, we have Lori, and we have Kayla, and they all have a distinct role they play in this incredible institute of research, of pastoring, of therapy, all in the spirit of helping children and family heal. Praise God for people like this that step into the messy of life. And that's where God does his greatest work, right? So I'm going to start with Lori. I have asked Lori just to kind of, and everyone, Robert and Kayla, to give us kind of a snapshot of who you are and what your role is in this incredible ministry. Please, Lori.
Okay, so hi, good morning, everybody. Well, good morning from California, which is where I'm at. Um, so I'm Lori Crosby. I'm the Chief Inspiration Officer of Reach Hurting Kids Institute. I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist and a registered play therapist. I specialize in working with kids who have experienced trauma. And I myself have been serving in ministry for probably close to 30 years now. So Robert Crosby, he's my husband. We co-authored a book called Trauma Informed Children's Ministry, a practical guide to reaching hurting kids. And we have two kids of our own, Reagan, who is 13, and RJ, who is 9. And it's amazing that we get to do this ministry together, do this work together with our partner, Kayla, Pastor Kayla Smith. And we're just so honored to be with everybody today and to get to talk about this topic that we're so passionate about.
That is awesome. And before Kayla goes, I'm just putting it together right now that Lori and Robert go together. Oh my
We go
God.
They
together.
do.
We do. We go together. We're married.
And I'm telling you, I need some play therapy in my life. That's for sure.
We all
Uh,
do.
we do. We really do. Okay, Kayla.
Right. So I am Kayla Smith. I am a pastor in the Nashville, Tennessee area. I've been pastoring for about 10 years and have served in children's ministry in various roles. Right now, as a pastor of intergenerational discipleship at my church. And I am the associate director of Reach Hurting Kids Institute, bringing a little bit of the like practical pastoral lens to all of these concepts that we have the privilege of talking to churches about.
That's sweet. Beautiful, beautiful. And Robert.
Hey there, my name is Robert Crosby. I'm the executive director of Reach Hurting Kids Institute, and I am professor of psychology at California Baptist University, which is
Oh,
in Riverside,
wow.
California.
Yeah.
And my expertise is in research, and our team has been researching children's ministry and related topics for a little over 10, 12 years. And over the past several years, the focus of that research has been on serving kids who have experienced trauma. So that led to the book that Lori mentioned, and that led to the institute that we're here representing, as well as a set of training workshops, a set of curriculum called the Reach Hurting Kids Workshop that churches use to train their teams to work with kids from tough backgrounds.
That's great. That is fantastic. Um, so I appreciate the perspective that you bring. I really, and our team really appreciates, man, the heart behind the ministry. And so as we really began kind of, if you will, cooking up where we would go today, uh, we really, and it was much to do with Robert, and that was let's have a conversation around what I would consider three big rocks or three very large questions. And so Again, I'm hoping that you've got a device or something to write on because this is going to be some rich stuff. But the first question that we're going to lead into, it's going to be a little, I would say, what-ish, what is, and then we're going to really kind of distill down to how do you, and here's some tangible handles to grab specifically in your children's ministry where you are. Okay, so we're going to really get to the practical nitty gritty towards the end. But I've asked Robert to kick us off with this first question, and we will hear from his teammates as well. But the first question for us today, guys, is what is childhood trauma and how common is it? What is childhood trauma and how common is it? Robert and team, please.
That's a fantastic question, and it causes a lot of confusion. And there's even been some, I want to say, controversy recently surrounding this. So the technical definition of childhood trauma is any threatening event or situation that causes long-term harm to a child's development. So their social, emotional, mental, relational, spiritual, physical well-being.
Mhm.
So I find it more helpful to maybe talk about a potentially traumatic event and
Mhm.
then talk about trauma as a response. A traumatic event could really vary. In the research, sometimes they'll look at things like different types of child abuse and neglect, having mental illness in the home, maybe a parent who's in prison, whole variety of things. But of course, you could have natural disasters, a shooting in your community, a divorce, bullying at school. So what really differentiates trauma for one particular person is going to be it's going to be subjective to them because it
Mhm.
has to do with their resiliency. So how capable are they of coping? Are they of coping with this event? So when I say controversy, it's because sometimes someone might say, well, you're calling this trauma, but that's not real trauma. This is, having a disaster. That's real trauma, but getting bullied, that's not real trauma. That's just part of childhood.
Mhm.
And again, it has to do with this person's coping mechanisms. So when someone is not capable of coping because they don't have family support at home, maybe they don't have therapy in the case of a really significant traumatic, like a bigger event, in case they don't have social emotional skills, they have bad nutrition or poor sleep, for whatever
Mhm.
reason, it's hitting them harder. In terms of prevalence, these, I'm going to call them potentially traumatic events, are really common. So the research shows that about 3 out of 4 kids, about 75%, between 2 out of 3 and 3 out of 4, somewhere in that ballpark. So a quarter to 2/3, they're going to experience some kind of potentially traumatic event by the time they're 18. So by any standard, you could look across different studies, different research methodologies. Most of the kids you're working with will have something potentially traumatic happen to them. Now, how it hits them is going to vary from child to child. And so if we talk about traumatic impact, it's really significant there too. We see a child mental health crisis going on right now. So I was looking up some recent research. So there's something called the Middle School Youth Risk Behavior Survey. So the CDC ran this in 2021. So this is fairly recent. And so among sixth graders, so these are 11, maybe 12-year-olds, we saw that 1 in 5 has seriously considered suicide.
Mhm.
1 in 7 has made a plan about how they would kill themselves, and 1 in 12 has tried to kill themselves.
Mhm.
So if you have elementary school kids in front of you, basically of any age, there's a decent chance that you've got kids in the room who actually have suicide on their mind, that it's something that they're thinking about or possibly even making a plan to carry out. I've actually sat with second graders and third graders and been in a small group conversation, and we're following up on simple as, how is your day going? And this conversation continues to find out that here's a 7, 8-year-old child who's detailing their plan to kill themselves.
Mhm.
So this is the situation we're in. We have lots of potentially traumatic events. We have an increase in these things, and we have less and less resiliency factors. People are more disconnected. Devices are a big part of that. The average 9-year-old is spending, 4, 5, 6 hours a day on their phone.
Wow.
So, or on tablets. So they're disconnected from community, from their families, from church. So you've got kids that are more and more disconnected, being exposed to more and more potentially traumatic events, cyberbullying on the phone, all sorts of violent content online. And so we're seeing this big increase in mental health issues. So very, very common. And the traumatic response, very, very common. So we have to be aware of these things. To be a relevant ministry, we have to be aware and responsive to this kind of stuff.
So I
Mm.
just want to circle back to what you said,
Great.
Robert.
Yes, please, please.
You just gave like
Yeah.
a really heavy statistic, specifically about suicide. And we have, I mean, that's so heavily really focus on that and knowing, and I want to add but that there's hope in that. Like when we understand more of what our kids are coming from in our ministries and everybody here in ministry who is joining this webinar, like the church gets to be an agent of healing and
Mm.
gets to walk alongside these hurting children. And
Right.
personally, in my own private practice, I have seen this, the heaviness and the intensity, and have sat with my clients with their believing families. They go to church regularly, they serve in church, and these their children are considering suicide.
Mm.
It's heartbreaking.
Mm. Mm. Kayla, what do you add from a pastor's perspective? And again, I just think what's so beautiful about such a large subject matter that we're going
Yeah.
after, that we're coming after it from a spiritual, from a Christian, from a church ministry background. It's just absolutely beautiful. So the context is wonderful. Kayla, what do you say about what's been
Yeah.
said?
Yeah. I mean, I think keeping in mind the heaviness that is happening for the world's children these days, and truly, Robert, those statistics are always staggering to me. Every time I hear them, I'm always burdened by, man, there's just so many. There's so many, and how can we make an impact? But that's where the church has a special place right now. God has created us for this moment. So I think of Colossians 3:12 when we're talking about, as God's chosen people, we are to clothe ourselves with things like compassion and kindness and humility and gentleness and patience, all in light of these kinds of things, right? So as the church faces a mental health crisis for children, multiple traumatic events or potentially traumatic events for children that they're facing, the heaviness of this broken world, when we're facing that, we don't face it without hope.
Mm.
We face it with the hope of Christ, the Christ who calls us to clothe ourselves as Christ's own character with compassion and kindness and humility and gentleness and patience in the face of really big trauma. So I see the church coming alive in a way that is only Jesus, right? It's only
Right.
Jesus to meet despair
Absolutely.
with hope. It's only Jesus to meet death with life. And so if this is a moment where we're seeing death and we're seeing despair and we're seeing destruction, then praise God, here is hope. So I think right now, like the church has a real moment to step in and be the light in this world.
Mm.
Amen.
Yeah, because it really seems to me, as the world's always been broken, and it
Right.
just seems like it is it any messier now than it was years ago. I mean, sin is sin, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's brokenness is whether you're barely broken or you're broken completely, you're broken. I'd love for you, and again in this conversation, here's the reality. And Kayla, you might have a greater grasp around this because of being on staff at a church. So, our listeners today, and those who use our resources at David C. Cook, and those people that you speak to at the Children's Pastors Conference, most of them uh, today are a children's pastor, a children's director, part-time, full-time, some uh, with background in education,
Hmm.
some have gone to seminary. Most, I would say, I've been in this field for 42 years. Most have been a volunteer in the ministry, and Kayla sees, wow, man, Lori would be an incredible children's ministry director. Full
True.
time, part time, let's bring her on. Okay. True. This is a reality. So
Yeah.
she steps into, I
Right.
believe, the largest volunteer based section of the church. Not adult ministry, not women's ministry, not even student ministry. It's children's ministry. You have to have a legion of people. So that
Mm.
is the big thing. You're coming into this role um, with so much upon you to recruit,
Hmm.
to set a budget, to create a ministry program that's intentional and purposeful and thriving. You've got summer minute. There's just a lot of programming. There's a lot of people
Yeah.
involved in children's and family ministry space. I'm getting to my question, but there's context here.
Yeah.
Then you're dealing with volunteers,
Yeah.
run the gamut from you're a public or private school teacher and you're working with fourth grade, fifth grade boys and girls in children's ministry, or you're a mailman and you love Jesus and
Yeah.
hey, you need volunteers. I'd love to serve. So the point is, this is how do we take this heavy, heavy,
Yeah.
heavy, where do we go with this
Yeah. Yeah.
and distill it down so that it's not so overwhelming, but maybe it
Hmm.
should be because it is reality.
Hmm.
How do we help a children's pastor
Yeah.
Mhm.
navigate this, communicate it? Because in many cases, that children's pastor, whether it be male or female, have children. So
Mm.
maybe a children's pastor, children's director, Robert, is also dealing with a child of trauma, right?
Right.
So how do we first communicate this in a usable way to the leadership, and
Yeah.
then how do we distill it down to volunteers? Finally, that's my question. I'd love that. I'd love for you to weigh in on that, guys.
Yeah. Well, let me start with just a little bit of background as to why this is a team at all, why Reach Hurting Kids Institute exists at
Yes,
all.
yes.
Um, Robert is part of a research team out of California Baptist University who's researched children's ministry for a long time
Mm,
and specifically focused in on trauma-informed ministries, right?
mhm,
My church just happened to be a part of that research, and we
mm,
were saying, like, I've always been kind of an academic nerd, so I was like, please send me the articles. I want to read it. I'd love to see the statistics, all of that. But then as we continued the conversation over the years, we realized children's pastors are not reading academic articles. We don't have time, we don't have space in our brains to fit that in. And how in the world are we going to get a team of volunteers to read an academic article on trauma?
mhm,
That's not going to
mhm,
happen.
mhm, mhm,
And because of that realization, after years of conversation and the book that Robert and Lori have written, Trauma Informed Children's Ministry, after all of that, we talked about that exact question, Byron. How
Mhm.
do we take a team that said that maybe teachers, maybe parents, maybe the mailman, how do we help them to understand where we're at as a society and how the church can fill this gap and
mhm,
provide a therapeutic environment for kids?
mhm,
I am not a therapist, but I
mhm,
do believe that the church can serve a therapeutic role here.
mhm,
So
Absolutely.
that's why the Reach Hurting Kids Institute exists. We developed a workshop, a 4-module workshop that trains volunteers on how to even do any of this. And the whole point
Mhm.
is to have it in language and in situations and in a story-based form so that any volunteer, whether they have understanding of child development or not, can start to understand, oh, this is where they're coming from. This is what's going on. And here's the basics, right? We as a church have a responsibility to learn to first realize all of those stats that Robert went over, and then learn what Lori said, that we come from hope. Like we have the opportunity to bring hope to this conversation.
Mhm.
So once we learn to realize what's happening and that these could be signs of trauma, then we learn to recognize what behaviors are happening that could be a signal to us that something's going on under the surface.
Mm.
And then we learn how to respond. How do we learn to respond to the deeper feeling, the deeper need that's being expressed from the behavior that's signaling to us that something is going on?
Mm.
That's a lot of words to say. It is not, I have been a children's pastor a long time. It feels daunting to bring information like this to your team. And it is too costly to not bring this information to your team. We must, as the church, we must become equipped, even to our volunteers, like we must become equipped to start to hear the behavior that's coming across from our kids as a sign that something else is happening and learn how we can respond with the hope of Jesus.
Mm.
That's
That's
so true.
gorgeous. That's beautiful, beautiful. Yes, Robert, please.
So I put into the chat
Yeah.
a link to the book and then a link to the workshop so that let's see here. Oh, I see. Oh, I my chat went to just us. Okay, so looks like I didn't know who I was chatting with. Looks like Courtney put that in the chat for us. Fantastic. So that's the resources that were just being referenced right now, which I was just sharing with Lori apparently. So one of the most powerful things is when people make the connection between the trauma and the behaviors they're seeing. If a kid walks in and you were to say, "Hey, this kid who just came in, his mother died last week."
Mhm.
So if you see some behavior that seems
Mm.
off, that's why, right? If you were to share that with someone and the kid comes in and, hey, Michael, how's it going? And he looks down and doesn't answer, or if he gives you a rude response or doesn't participate, you wouldn't be angry with him because you would understand that that's what's going on, right? You would feel compassionate. The problem is we don't know most of the time what's going on in the background. So instead, Michael walks in, "Hi, Michael, how are you?" And he looks down and walks away. And you think, wow, that was rude. Or you feel personally offended or at best confused. And then he won't participate. Well, why is Michael not participating? Does he not care about the Bible? Does
Mm.
he, is he just a bad student? Is he just giving me a hard time? Is he being defiant? And we start to attribute all these negative attributions to the child, and now we're getting frustrated or angry, and now we're thinking discipline, right? We'll see, I have this kid who's talking back, or this kid who's being defiant, or this kid who won't participate, or this kid who fill in the blank. How do I get him to behave? Should I get his parents? Should I make his parents sit with him? Should I suspend him from the group? Should I not give him raffle tickets? And our mind's going there rather than immediately going, oh, something's wrong. So what we encourage people to do, and we'll talk about some of the signs and that go with this more specifically, but what we want to do is when we see a behavior issue to immediately think, oh, something's going on in this kid's life. He's having a hard time. He's not giving me a hard time. He's having a hard time.
Right.
Mm.
Let me now approach the child from that perspective. And we don't have to play detective and figure out, like, well, I need to see if his mom really died because I'll be compassionate if she did. But if his mom didn't die, no, now it's a discipline issue. We don't do anything like that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
people will think that. I know it sounds, but
Right.
They
people
do.
will think that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes. Yeah.
you'll hear it like, well, this child has no excuse. Nothing's happened to him. He has no excuse for behaving. You don't know that. Let's just
Yeah.
assume there is an excuse, or let's just say reason, and
Mhm.
let's respond to however he's feeling. If he comes in, he's feeling defensive, he's feeling angry, if he's feeling, if he's pushing back, and there's a sense of maybe powerlessness that's driving
Yeah.
some what feels like defiance. Let's
Right.
address that without worrying about whether they deserve grace. But I think we can talk a little more about some of the specific things to look for.
We we will
Yeah.
say, or there is the saying, get curious, not furious.
Mm.
Mm,
And so getting curious about the behavior instead of personalizing the behavior and making it about you, but getting curious as to what's going on in that child's life and having that empathy for them and joining with them in that the place that they entered in from.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
I'm scanning the chat.
Yeah, please, please. I'm seeing that too. Please, we've got these
Yeah.
questions, but if there's anything in chat that you want to pick up on, team, please
Oh,
go. Please
so
cover it.
I
Sure.
I just saw an Ashley question. I think maybe I could speak to that. So how do you do that if they are not willing to talk about it?
Right.
Great question, Ashley. Absolutely. There is some kids are very much willing to just talk and share, but I feel like most of the time, that's not always the case. And so you don't have to know the child's backstory in order to minister to them, in order to love them, in order to build relationship with them, but you can be present with them in that hard space. If they're sitting in the back of the sanctuary and their arms are crossed and their heads down and they're forlorn, you can come alongside and just sit next to them and you can sit there in silence.
Mm,
You can just be a therapeutic presence that is like, I see you, I hear you, I understand, I care. And over time, when you build that relationship, because again, relationship is the trauma informed risk, like the best trauma informed response. You have to have relationship. You can't come alongside a minister to hurting children if you don't have a relationship first. So building relationship through play, sitting down on the floor and doing Legos with them, playing Sorry, Uno. Um, that is how you start to build that relationship and that trust. And then maybe over time they will share what's going on. But throughout that process, you're showing them Jesus. You are being Jesus to them
Yeah.
by your actions.
Right, right, right. And it's not transactional. It's not that you like, if I invest this many hours in this relationship, then they'll share with me what happened. They might one day, and that's wonderful, but thank God, like it's not like even when we don't hold all the pieces to the story, we can be sensitive to the fact that they are a storied human being. There is more to this than what I see. And so I can have compassion. I can have kindness towards you and patience with you because that's who Jesus is. That's who
mhm,
Jesus is.
mhm,
So
mhm.
to zoom out a little, so some of these
Yes.
examples have been brought up. So broadly speaking, symptoms of trauma, you have fear, what we call dysregulation or emotionally feeling out of control. You have feelings of rejection or feeling disconnected, and then feelings of worthlessness or feeling devalued. So, with fear, maybe you have a kid who's talking about bad things that might happen. Well, this could happen, or what if this happens, or this might happen, right? That kind of language lets you know, okay, there's some sort of fear going on beneath the surface. Maybe they
Mm,
don't want to come into the room, or they're not responsive to you when you speak to them, or they don't want to participate in activity. You see them holding back. A lot of times that can be a fear response. Emotion dysregulation, so not paying attention, not staying engaged, maybe walking around the room, outbursts, throwing things, yelling, crying, breaking down, shutting down. Sometimes people they think about big things, but sometimes it's the opposite. They're just sort of shutting down. Could be a response to being emotionally overwhelmed. In terms of disconnection, so feelings of rejection. This is someone who is maybe they're pushing other people away. That can be passively by just going away, or it could be being mean to other kids to sort of it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. No one
mhm,
likes me. I'm mean to people. They don't like me. See, nobody likes me. Not wanting to pretend, hey, you want to come play? No, I don't want to come play that. And so I don't have any friends. Nobody wants to play with me, but they've actively pushed folks away. So that's a component. And then worthlessness. So feeling out of control. A lot of times kids, things are just happening to them and they're desperate for some sense of control. So you'll see things
mhm,
like maybe what looks like defiance. No, I don't want to do that. I'm talking back. I'm pushing back. Um,
mm,
Even something that seems like a reasonable request, there's a pushback to feeling incompetent. So they're so used they're used to failing. And so if you have I've done like the sword, who can find the Bible verse first, and the kid doesn't find it first and just starts breaking down in tears.
mhm, mhm,
Right? That's surprising. It doesn't feel like it's commiserate with the situation, but the feelings of worthlessness are just below the
mm,
surface. It only takes a smallest amount to tap into that. So feeling like I don't matter, I can't do anything, I can't, um, I don't have any power in situations. So these type of behaviors tell us that a child is experiencing one of these emotions, and so instead of playing detective to find out what trauma might have happened, what event might have happened. We play detective to find out how are they feeling and what can we do to address that underlying feeling. People always ask, this is a really common question. We'll say, well, how do I know that this was caused by trauma, right? So
Mhm.
this kid's in here and they're not paying attention. Is it just ADHD? Maybe it's ADHD, not trauma. So do I respond differently? And typically, no. If they're mentally not engaged, we address it regardless of the cause. If a child is sad and breaking down, we address sadness. If a child's afraid, we address fear. We don't. Maybe it's because they're cranky because they were up at their best friend's slumber party. Maybe something really awful is happening. So we just say, let's tap into what are they feeling. Let's speak into that feeling, and then that helps them heal. That helps them be successful in the ministry, so that they can fully engage in what we're doing.
Yeah, this is good. And I think we've really rolled into question two. Thank you, Robert. And that is, how do we recognize the signs and symptoms of trauma uh,
Mhm.
in our children's ministry? So thank you so much for laying that out. I come to Lori, I come to Kayla. What would you add? Because I do have some follow-up questions around question two, but what say you?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think just keeping your eyes open for what's different today about
Mm.
this kiddo. So when Lori says that relationship is the trauma-informed strategy, I mean that could not be more true. When you know someone and they're acting differently than usual, that's something that kind of helps us to see something's up. And like Robert said, it could be as simple as they stayed up all night eating pizza at a slumber party, so they don't feel great, they're very tired and they're super cranky. That's what's up. That's what's up. And it helps you to know. But one of the dangers of let me think of how to phrase this. Pendulum swing happens everywhere in all of society. And one of the pendulum swings that happens in children's ministry is that in the name of safety, we kind of remove this relationship
Mhm.
piece. In the name of
Mm,
the safety of the child, the
mhm,
emotional and the
mhm,
physical safety, which we absolutely pursue the safety of the child for sure.
mhm,
But
mhm.
unfortunately, in the name of that safety, we've removed a relational piece to children's ministry. But when you don't have the relational piece, you don't notice when something is off, unless it's a big, huge behavior or huge language that says that there's something. But when you're not noticing those subtle cues, you don't know that something's going on. So I think that the one piece I would add, Robert's list is so helpful of helping us
Mhm.
to identify these behaviors might be pointing to this deeper feeling. I would just add that relational piece is of utmost importance as pastors to children.
Yeah, and give us that quote again. Relational.
That's a
Oh,
great question.
what was it?
We'll have to
What was?
rewind and find
I
out, and then we'll.
cannot wait for the replay. A
I know.
relate.
Then we'll see it.
What was it? Relational is the answer to.
Relationship is the
Relationship.
trauma.
Oh, relationship
Mhm.
is the trauma informed strategy. Yeah, it is.
And I'll add
Yeah.
another one. All
That
behavior.
is that is awesome right there. That is awesome. Yes, please, Robert. Please.
I'm going to add one more. So ABC, all behavior is communication.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Anything you're seeing, it's telling you something. Because kids don't
Is it community,
often.
community, or Robert, or communication?
Oh,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Oh,
communication.
I
Yeah.
messed that up.
communication.
I always love catching doctors with typos. I love
Well,
it.
Oh
all
no.
behavior. No, so
Man, I
scratch
feel
the
good
first one.
today.
Not all behavior is
Not
community.
community.
Don't look at that one. All behavior, yes, is community. Yeah, when I
Lori,
write on the board
Lori.
at work, I'm sloppy
Yeah,
because I'm not sure to spell something, so I just make it slop. Yeah,
yeah,
all
that is,
behavior is communication. So when
yeah.
you see something, the kid's very seldom going to tell you, "I'm feeling distressed today. I'm feeling worried today because of this." They're just going to come in and behave in a particular way. So I like what Kayla said about relationship giving you a clue to changes in the behavior. And it's also giving you the equity, the relational equity you
Mhm.
need to speak into a situation.
Right.
And she brought up an interesting point about safety concerns. I actually worked with the ministry. I got what they're coming from, but I was a little bit horrified. So we're talking about consistency in relationships. So having small group leaders that are with them consistently. And they said, well, we try to change the small group leaders as often as possible so the kids don't get attached to them. because we don't want to open the door to, exploitation. Say, well, you've just shut the door on ministry. So
Yeah.
we can do this in a way that's safe, but what child, a
Right.
child from trauma, I mean, it takes about, I found like with a group, it takes about 18 months for a group to sort of gel. So if
Yeah.
you have a leader, you have a group of kids, it's consistently week after week, about a year and a half, and you start to see some changes. So it's going into that second, third year. If you have a child coming out of a tough situation, it might take them years to develop trust with you. If a child's been, I've worked with kids who are on their third, fourth dad or, male figure in their life who've gone through abuse, who've gone through neglect, who've gone through violence. And they're not always just going to walk in and within a year, be willing to open up their lives to you. So it's to know when there's shifts in their patterns of behavior, and to have the right to earn the right, which they grant, the right to you to speak into their lives.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Lori. Please add. I
Oh,
think
well,
you were going to say something.
I just saw a really good, it looks like Michelle wrote a question. So some volunteers are afraid to ask those questions.
Yeah.
If they find out information that is potential abuse, then mandate a reporter. So maybe that's why you have trouble getting volunteers. And so as a therapist, I've had to make a lot of CPS reports, a lot over the years. And I remember my first report, there's such like, like there's a big fear in that. So I hear that concern, but also we get to be like, the social worker's job when you make a report is to investigate. So if you suspect abuse at all, like you don't have to be the investigator, you don't have to have all the facts. You can just say, hey, you can call and make the report and just say, this is all I know. This is the information I have. And it's the social worker's job to do the investigation. If you're worried that there's abuse, then please do your due diligence and protect that child. And for volunteers, yes, that can feel scary and daunting, but this is where we come in with the workshops. Like so our workshops are all evidence-based. We got a grant, we ran a long research project to figure out what is more effective. Is it having a pastor-led, because our workshops are pastor-led. You bring your own team, your volunteers, and it's a 75-minute workshop. Stay after on a Sunday. I'm going to feed you lunch, always feed your people. And then you just do this interactive training. And when we went out and we were doing the research, had different churches participate, we went on Saturday mornings, and there was this, I'll never forget this. There was this older gentleman, much older gentleman, and he just glared at us, and he like had his arms crossed. He goes, I do not want to be here. And he was so mad. I was like, I'm so sorry. He goes, my pastor's making me be here. I was like, I am so glad you're here. I really hope it's worth your time. And after he went through this training, he shook our hands and he goes, you should not serve in children's ministry if you have not done this workshop. I was like, oh, this is the best compliment I've ever received in my entire life. Oh my gosh, we won this guy over. And he was like, so he felt equipped. And all of the churches that participated in the research and creating these workshops, they shared story after story about their volunteers felt more equipped. They knew what to do. They knew what to say. They showed up every Sunday. They had a shared vision for their church, for their children. And there was like actually less struggle getting volunteers because they felt equipped, they felt prepared, and it wasn't done. It like we worked really hard. It's very interactive. But just to encourage pastors out there, like we hear you, we see you, we know your heart, and we love you. We love what you are doing. And we passionately feel like the church is a place to serve hurting kids and families. That's what God created us to do. That's why we're here. We show up as a community. And so training, like good intentions are not enough. They're just not. You have to be equipped, and there are ways to do it
That's good.
that are
So true.
good, that are very, very helpful. So
So true. So true. Yeah, I want to add in brief. I don't think I'm as old as that gentleman, and I'm not sitting with my arms crossed, but
you are not.
I
You are
have
not.
been in this role at David C. Cook
Yeah.
for a long time, 42 years. and still counting. What a ministry, what a great time I've had. But I have seen the whole birth and life thus far of what we call children's ministry. And I think what's happening, a light bulb's coming on. Why? People, listen, who are guests today, tap into these people, whether it's in person or they could do Zoom. We have got to go here because I think I think children's ministry is beginning to go through another cycle, a new cycle. And this is the cycle. And that is equipping our people to this stuff that's coming in to our churches and ministries every cotton picking Sunday or Wednesday or summer ministries. And I have done so much training in my time on site with churches. It kicks off in September. Let's get everybody in here and we'll just rally the troops, cast the vision, the mission. We'll give them the handbook. And the handbook's like, there's the bathroom, there's the resource center.
Right.
If you have children with green stuff coming out of their nose and ears, that we don't get here.
Yeah.
We don't get here.
Yeah.
And so this is a part of discipleship.
Yes.
So, man, number one, who we ought to have in this webinar, in this series that we're doing, and I would say the majority of the webinars, Courtney, on the other end, that works with me in creating these for you, is a senior pastor.
Yes.
where
Yes.
where
Yes.
he
Yes.
or she are like,
Yeah.
this is a
100.
top down. This is, we have broken people coming in. And
Right.
so we need the pastor to be involved and
Yes.
aware and alert and saying we need to do these things. So,
Yes.
so as I said earlier, whether it's a children's pastor, schooled, educated, part-time, full-time, or working at Walgreens, I love Walgreens, prefer CVS, but you get me. And they're doing this in a part-time. They're the people at the top, which
Mhm.
we're asking you, children's pastor, children's director, to do something else. And many of them are saying, I cannot do anymore. I
Mm.
am tapped out. So that's where we got
Yeah.
to have the help
Right.
from the church, the senior
Mhm.
pastor, the elders, the leadership of the
Absolutely.
church say, this church needs more children's staff. Okay. And
Mm.
this is the
Yeah.
reason, because a children's pastor can only take on so much, but he
Yeah.
or she has really, in my mind, Robert, got to be that person who's hovering over the children's ministry. And I'm into sports. They're kind of, and this is the time to do this. Please tell me I'm wrong, but it's almost like a scouting report where the children's pastor should look over whether it's 25 kids or 550 or 1,000. We just have to do this. And you're smart enough to be able to break these numbers down. But you almost need to do a scouting report and say, hey, what do we know about the Crosbys? Okay, good, good, good. Oh, what do we know about the Reaganses? Okay, good, good, good. What about Smiths? And let me just say, I think they're going through some tough times right now. The father is not well. Marriage is
Mm.
not good. Bing, bing, bing. Red flag goes up. So then
And this is,
the children's pastor then
yeah.
needs to go and talk to the volunteer who,
Yeah.
I, I don't want this kid in my class.
Mm. Yeah. See, this is pastoring. What
Yes,
you're
it is
saying.
pastoring.
Yeah,
Yes,
what you're
please.
saying, Byron, is exactly what my hope would be for any children's pastor to arrive at. I understand that feeling of overwhelm, of I can't do more. You can't add more to my plate. I can't. So instead, I wonder if we can reframe that instead of more, we're pastoring differently. We're going to just clear our plate off completely. And we will start with the understanding on our plate that discipleship is relational. It
Yep.
is
Yes.
always
Yep.
relational. And
Yep.
if that's so, then the work that you just talked about of like, let's get to know the Smith family. What's going on here? And it's
Yep.
not about gossiping. It's not about
Oh,
sharing
no.
information
No,
that
no,
we
no,
shouldn't,
no.
but just having a mindset of like, how can I best pastor this kid? Because
Yes.
what I would hope to see is instead of I'm an expert of children's ministry curriculum, I'm an expert of how to get this point across in a really fun way, and
Mhm.
that's so good and so exciting. Instead, I'd love to see I am an expert of Owen. I know
Mm.
Owen and I love Owen, and I'm going to figure out how to best disciple Owen, and that will always be relational first. We'll have fun, we'll have great curriculum, we'll learn a lot, but it is relational first. Jesus' example to us of having 12 disciples right there living life among each other all the time was relational. And if we are
Absolutely.
to be in his footsteps, we will also be pastoring in a relational way. So instead of
Absolutely.
more, this isn't about like, let's pile your plate higher. It's about, wait a minute, clear it all off. Start
Mhm.
with, we will have relationship.
Uh,
I
yeah, yeah.
saw
Robert,
that.
please. Yeah. So good. So good. So good. And you're actually pastoring more than just Owen. You're
Mm-hmm.
pastoring Owen's
Right.
family.
Exactly.
Could be mom and dad, so on. Yeah. Beautiful.
Exactly.
Yeah, well said, Robert.
Yeah. So I was just noticing in the chat there was some interest in those materials. So I put together a little coupon code just to help anyone out who's interested. So Spark 15 just to get 15% off of that. So I just put
Thank
that
you.
in there because I know some folks are curious about that. And kind of going along with that. So there's the concern about are we taking on too much? And a lot of times when we're pressed for volunteers, there's concern about asking too much of them for fear of
Mm-hmm.
losing volunteers. And,
Mhm.
and what we find is sometimes it's the opposite. The
Mhm.
less we ask and the less, so if we're to say, well,
Mm-hmm.
if I ask them to come every week, then they may not want to come
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll lose them. So I'll just find people to come every other week. Well, I want to ask less than that. So let's just ask once a month. And people feel like they're not really invested.
Yeah.
We'll just come once a month for 3 months or just come. And so, well, I'm just kind of filling in. I'm just kind of childcare. I don't know these children.
Mhm.
Or it's, well, if you don't come and serve, then we're going to have to close down childcare. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how it comes across. So people aren't really excited about it. And then but we found that when we play it up, we've had people come to the workshops where I remember there's one where someone set up the chairs and they came in and they're like, I just hope once in a while, I set up the chairs. And then it kind of started and they stopped and then sat through it and were like, actually, I want to get involved. Or there was someone who served every other week and they went through it and they're like, I have to be here every week. I didn't realize the kind of impact I could have or the kind of needs the kids have. So
Right.
Right.
when someone I think I was noticing in the chat too about small groups. Someone said, well, my volunteers, they want to move up the next year because they know them and they have relationship. And like, well, I don't want them to go off and you want to continue to grow that. So when people are invested and we say, hey, you were the front line, you were essentially serving as their pastors in a lot of way. You're the one that they're spending most of the time with in their spiritual development in some cases. And it's a big deal. Lean into it and get to know them. And instead of playing it down, say, no, this is a really important job. If you're going to do this, I want you to take it very seriously because you are shaping the way this child experiences God. The idea of us being the hands and feet of Christ,
Yeah. Yeah.
that that
Absolutely.
bears out in the research. We've had kids say things like, I feel like when you're accepted into the church, you're accepted into God, was the language some little boy
Yeah.
used.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so when they come in and they feel loved and connected and valued, that's how they're experiencing God and vice versa. So I would say in general, don't play it down. It's just this, it's just this. Can you give me the smallest amount? No, 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 this is a really big deal. And if you're going to take this on, take it seriously because you are affecting lives.
Yes. Yes. So the remaining time we have, and there was one other question, but I think we've kind of rolled it into this incredible conversation. Uh, Someone take the lead here on this, but we've got about 6 minutes. We're going to take it right to the top of the hour. Um, this is the first webinar around this subject matter of helping ministry understand trauma. We're beginning here. So this is where we're starting. So, one of you, if not all of you, in summation, how do we summarize what you all have said and the last hour. Action steps, 1, 2,
Mm.
3, as far as the beginning. Please, someone hop into the hot seat.
We do love a hot seat. Lori in particular loves a hot seat. No.
Sure does.
No, I will say, I mean, and Robert, add on to this, and Lori, if you feel so inclined, also add on to it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to bring it back to Colossians chapter 2 real quick.
Pastor's
As
heart. Pastor's
yeah,
heart. Love it. Love it.
maybe I was writing a sermon today, maybe not, I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
so in Colossians, though, when it says to clothe ourselves with compassion, to clothe is an action. It's a verb. It's not passive. It is not passive. It is not good intentions. It is actively to clothe ourselves with the character of God. But then it wraps up in verse 14 with this: above all of these values, clothe yourself in love, because that's what binds all those together. All of them, not just like haphazard. It's not just compassion here and empathy there and humility here and gentleness there. No, it's all clothed in love, which binds them together in perfect unity. We imperfect people, we imperfect church, can be clothed in the love of Jesus in such a way that says, okay, behavior is communication. Relationship is the trauma-informed strategy. Discipleship is inherently relational. And therefore we will clothe ourselves in love, and we will meet these children, these youth. I mean, I'm seeing in the comments, yes, this is all applicable across the board. It's not
It
just
is.
kids, it's
It
not
is.
just youth, it's everyone,
It
everyone,
is.
everyone.
It
We
is.
are a storied people. And if we are a storied people who all hold many
Everybody.
pieces to our stories, then we need to be clothed in the love of Christ to meet each other where we are with that same love, and to say there is hope. There is hope in the face of death. There is life in the face of death.
Mm,
And that is Jesus.
mm.
So that's where I would put it. And there are so
Beautiful.
many other ways to summarize all of that. Robert, did you have things to add to that as well?
No, I think that's fantastic.
I think that's great. Yeah. I
Great. Mic
just want
drop
to
and then
say,
we
right? I want to
Ah,
add just briefly, just like to encourage you guys out there, because there were some questions about like just getting kids to talk. And I just want to say, ask open-ended questions, just
Mm,
from a simple therapist perspective. So you can just say, tell me more about that. Or, I
mhm,
mean, the joke is, how do you feel about that? But honestly, how do you feel about that? Um, and just be quiet, like just listen. You don't get to fix it for them, you get to be present with them. So just remember, maybe some of those little things we shared can be helpful as you
very
begin
good.
this conversation.
I do have one
Please.
that I'd love to chime in. I remember from the research talking to a
Thank you.
sibling set, and they had been kicked out of at least a dozen churches. I mean, at
Hmm.
least a dozen churches. They were in foster care, and they were kicked
Yeah.
out, kicked out, kicked out.
Yeah.
And I remember a little girl was talking. Her brother had big explosive behaviors, and he would start to act up, and he would get aggressive, and they would just get grandma. She was watching them at the time, and she was the foster parent at the time, and they would send him away. And I remember her saying they didn't even try. Like, he was struggling and they didn't even try to help
Mm,
him. And
mm,
that I found that encouraging, because it made me understand that trying counts.
mm,
And one thing I always tell people is, imagine this kid as an adult, and they are looking back on this experience, and they say, when I was a young kid, I had a lot of trauma. My behavior was extraordinarily difficult. And I came to church this morning and I exploded and I yelled and I called them names and I wouldn't participate. And I was in so much pain. I just blew up. And then my leader, fill in the blank.
mm,
And this is what you get to fill in the blank with that morning. And if it's not perfect, and they say, and the leader tried to talk to me and I wasn't having it. The leader tried to give me a fidget and it didn't help. And the leader tried to pray for me and I wasn't, I didn't want to listen. But it's the leader tried, the leader tried, the leader tried, then that's communicating God's love. So that's the encouragement. You get to fill in that blank. When I was a kid, I was hurting and I came to church and my behavior was out of control. And my pastor did what?
mm,
mm.
yeah.
Wow. I will leave that untouched because, as they say in Nashville, that will preach. That's that's
Yeah.
that's the point. And I think, well, I wasn't supposed to add anything. I will. We have got to think about this cycle where we're at in children's ministry, where we're in a different day, and the way that we've gone about kind of being passive in many respects, not aware. Again, smart people, you're always aware of your audience. Who are we speaking to today? I shared this with the team. This is who you're going to be speaking with. Who's coming to your church? You've got to know as best you can where they're coming from, what's happening in the family, and then ministry happens. And a lot of pressure on the children's pastor director, the senior pastor, a lot of pressure on the volunteers. But we're going to have to train our volunteers much different, that this is top drawer priority. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Robert, Lori, Kayla. Thank you so much. Hurting Kids Institute. I want to do more with you. This has been a wonderful way for us to kick off this series with you. So again, our people are just thanking you. Please tap into these people. They are an incredible asset to you and your ministry right at your fingertips. So again, thank you. Our next webinar in this series, yes, you're welcome. The next webinar is Helping Kids Depend on Jesus. That's going to be happening next week, September 25, with Beth Guckenberger. And many of you know Beth. It will be outstanding as today was. And we also dropped in the promo code for Shepherd's Watch. Please make sure that you get a free subscription. My grandmother would say, make sure you get a free prescription. And I would say it's not that, it's called a subscription. So please do that. You'll be getting the replay as well. But I close by sharing with all of us that God is not overwhelmed with the brokenness in our world. God is not putting his hands up saying, I don't know what to do with all this trauma. I think God is asking us, what are you going to do? What are you going to do your part to bring Jesus into some of the mess that we're talking about? And thank God that some of the most broken people are coming to church. It should be a hospital and not a museum. And our churches, many on this call, if not all, get what I'm saying. And may you continue to be that. And until we see you again next week, God's best. Go do the work. And may God bless you greatly. Thanks again, team. See you again. Bye now. Bye now. Bye.
Thank you.